We begin worship the same way every Sunday morning, friends, and good morning. Number 188 in your hardback hymnal. The words will also be on the screen. We sing it 2 times through in English, 1 time in Spanish. It's okay, do your best. But I invite you to rise and body your spirit as you're willing and able, friends, to join us in singing Come, Come, whoever you are. Chris?
Well, good morning. Welcome to this multi-platform service of the Second Unitarian Church of Omaha. It is good to be with you this morning, either in person or joining us virtually on Zoom. My name is Tom Peterson. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a tall, aging male with graying hair, goatee, and glasses, and I'm speaking to you this morning from behind the pulpit in our sanctuary. I've got one announcement to share this morning before we get underway, and Sarah's got a slide to share to talk about this. Joanne Draper and Dorothy Danielson are spearheading a project to make sack lunches for a summer camp that's being sponsored by CIRA, the Center for Immigration and Refugee Advancement. They've got a collection box in the back of the sanctuary for donations for the food and the supplies that are needed for lunches for 81 kids and staff. They're also asking for volunteers to help pack those lunches on August the 5th. You're invited to contact Dorothy or Joanne if you have questions. There's also much more detail about this in the first announcement in that blue insert in your order of service, ways that you can help to make this a reality and live out our social justice goals in this community. And with that, I bid you welcome. All of us are welcome, every one of us, to this service today, especially those of you who are searching for a spiritual home. Many of us who are here were once seeking something larger than ourselves to which we could belong, a sense of rootedness to hold us as we create meaning together. And that is why we are here. We always need to find new and better ways of making meaning together. In this congregation, we strive not for perfection, but for authenticity and connection. Whether it's your first time in worship with us, or whether you're here for the 100th time, or whether you've been here since our church's founding almost 50 years ago. We will celebrate our 50th anniversary next May. You are welcomed here, and we hope that you will find questions that will stretch you, people to befriend you, and liberal religious values that will challenge you in loving boldly, in living justly, and in welcoming radically. Our congregation practices whole family worship, and we work to be radically welcoming and inclusive and accessible to people of all ages and all abilities. You're encouraged to move about as you need to. If you've got to get a kink out and get up and stretch, do that. If you need a drink of water, go grab one. We've got restrooms right off the foyer back there. Do what you need to do to be comfortable, to be fully present in this space, in this time. And do silence your cell phones because it helps. Our worship theme for the month of July is the Summer of Powerful Love, and this morning our settled minister, the Reverend Juniper Meadows, is leading us in a reflection and honoring of the powerful love that made up the powerful life of the poet Andrea Gibson. So as our first act of worship this morning, I invite you to turn and to greet one another. And for those joining us on Zoom, you are invited to unmute yourselves and join in. Welcome. Oh, it's so good to hear that joyful hubbub. I'll share a little glimpse behind the scenes. I use that time when you're all milling around to go back and grab both our Book of Life and the offering box from the welcoming table. If you haven't noticed those as you come in, it gives you an opportunity to beat the crowd while we're doing altar building and take advantage of that time before the service to jot a note or to make a contribution and avoid standing in the line as it comes later on in the service. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Juniper for our chalice lighting.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Reverend Juniper Meadows. I'm a tall, curly-haired woman with a scarf hat and a chalice necklace and a beautiful clergy stole with a luna moth and mountains on it, all kinds of colors. It's my pleasure to serve as your settled minister at Second Unitarian Church of Omaha. And today we are eulogizing the life of Andrea Gibson, a poet who's been very important in my formation as a minister, and possibly to some of you all as well, and certainly within the broader diaspora of Unitarian Universalism. This poet has touched many lives, perhaps second only to Mary Oliver in terms of impact in your average modern Unitarian minister. But I would like to begin with a poem that a friend of mine recommended, Birthday. Be a lot of poetry this morning, so I invite you to be in that headspace to hear that. And again, like as Tom said, take care of yourself this morning. We are all about welcoming all of who we are here. Tom? At 12 years old, I started bleeding with the moon and beating up boys who dreamed of becoming astronauts. I fought with my knuckles white as stars and left bruises the shape of Salem. There are things we know by heart and things we don't. At 13, my friend Jen tried to teach me how to blow rings of smoke. I'd watch the nicotine rising from her lips like halos, but I could never make dying beautiful. The sky didn't fill with colors the night I convinced myself veins are kite strings you can only cut free. I suppose I love this life. In spite of my clenched fist, I opened my palm and my lifelines looked like branches from an aspen tree. And there are songbirds perched on the tip of my fingers, and I wonder if Beethoven held his breath the first time his fingers touched the keys, the same way a soldier holds his breath the first time his finger clicks the trigger. We all have different reasons for forgetting to breathe. But my lungs remember the day my mother took my hand and placed it on her belly and told me the symphony beneath was my baby sister's heartbeat, and I knew life would tremble, like the first tear on a prison guard's hardened cheek, like a prayer on a dying man's lips, like a vet holding a bottle full of whiskey, like an empty gun in a war zone. Just take me, just take me. Sometimes the scales themselves weigh far too much. The heaviness of forever balancing blue sky with red blood. We were all born on days when too many people died in terrible ways, but you still have to call it a birthday. You still have to fall for the prettiest girl in the playground at recess and hope she knows you can hit a baseball further than any boy in the whole third grade. And I've been running for home through the windpipe of a man who sings while his hands playing washboard with a spoon on some street corner in New Orleans, where every boarded up window is still painted with the words, "We're coming back," like a promise to the ocean, that we will always keep moving towards the music, the way Basquiat slept in a cardboard box to be closer to the rain. Beauty, catch me on your tongue. Thunder, clap us open. The pupils in our eyes were not born to hide beneath their desks. Tonight, lay us down to rest in the Arizona desert, then wake us washing the feet of pregnant women who climbed across the border with their bellies aimed toward the sun. I know 1,000 things louder than a soldier's gun. I know the heartbeat of his mother. Don't cover up your ears, love. Don't cover your ears, life. There is a boy writing poems in Central Park, and as he writes, he moves, and his bones become the bars of Mandela's jail cell stretching apart. And there are men playing chess in the December cold who can't tell if the breath rising from the board is their opponent's or their own. And there's a woman on the stairwell of the subway swearing she can hear Niagara Falls from her rooftop in Brooklyn. And I'm remembering how Niagara Falls is a city overrun with strip malls and traffic and vendors and one incredibly brave river that makes it all worth it. Y'all, I know this world is far from perfect. I am not the type to mistake a streetlight for the moon. I know our wounds are deep as the Atlantic, but every ocean has a shoreline, and every shoreline has a tide that is constantly returning to wake the songbirds in our hands, to make the music in our bones, to place one fearless kiss on the mouth of that brave river that has to run through the center of our hearts to find its way home. And welcome, friends. In the tradition of Unitarian Universalism, we ground ourselves not in creeds or common ideas about this life or other lives, but in covenants. These are sacred living promises that we make to one another, grounding us in who we are and how we choose to be. And our covenant is adapted from James Philip Blake. We read it once in English, and because it is one of the most important expressions of our community, we also read it in Spanish, because Spanish is, of course, the second most commonly spoken language in this country, and also a language of people who are living under attack. So it is for us, in a sense, as a justice-oriented, love-centered people, a liturgical language for us too. So I invite you to do your best. Sarah, can you share the slides? Together, friends. Love is the spirit of this church, the quest for truth, its sacrament, and this is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another believe more fully in life. And in Spanish? El amor es el espíritu de nuestra iglesia, la búsqueda de la verdad, nuestro sacramento, y esto es nuestro gran acuerdo, que convivamos en paz, que busquemos la verdad en el amor, y que nos ayudemos uno al otro a creer más en la vida.
I'm Ashley Fuson. I'm the Director of Religious Education here at 2U. I'm a middle-aged woman wearing glasses, and I have brown hair streaked with gray. I'm coming to you from my home this morning through the magic of Zoom. We don't have an HR department here, and so I want to report to the congregation that earlier this week, Reverend Juniper introduced me to the work of Andrea Gibson, and I've sustained permanent emotional damage. I won't ever be the same, and we will be signing a petition after this service if anyone else has the same experience. This morning, I'm sharing a video created by Andrea, and I want to introduce it using the poet's own words from an interview given in 2017. Andrea Gibson's video for their poem, Your Life, is both a love letter and a rallying cry, not only to their former self, but to anyone currently struggling with their own identity. In the video, the poet urges everyone, queer and otherwise, to choose to live a hard life that is completely their own over an easy one. Here are some things Andrea had to say of the poem. I was thinking about the idea of having a hard life and what that means, how having an easy life doesn't necessarily equate to having a better one. I went through a period before writing this where I was feeling pretty dreamy about the idea of time travel. I was thinking about how comforting and exciting it would have been to be young and have a pep talk from my older self in terms of gender and queerness, the good and the bad of it. Many of the lyrics reference very specifically Gibson's own personal experiences with their gender identity while growing up. Andrea revealed they are actual personal experiences, though I do change the names at times. Gibson identified as many different things over the course of their life: bisexual, lesbian, dyke, queer, genderqueer, and they sought to remind everyone of the influence that language holds over our daily lives, particularly when it comes to gender. Quote, our experience of gender is so influenced by language. When you're writing, you're creating all this new language around something the listener gets to experience gender in a new way. I remember when someone handed me the word genderqueer. I had never heard that word before. I heard that word and I knew myself better. That's what writing can do, they explained. It can make us know ourselves better and know others better. Gibson wanted this video to be a collage of different individuals and expressions of gender. The video's diverse cast is actually made up of Gibson's friends and friends of friends instead of actors. It was important to Gibson to not only feature a wide array of queer individuals, but to show them living vibrantly. vibrantly in spite of society not always embracing that vibrance, they explained. Gibson hopes that people, queer or otherwise, who watch this video and listen to the poem will feel excited about gender and live a more genderful life.
I have a special reading from Carissa.
I hope I can do justice after hearing Andrea speak herself. Wow. Okay. This is instead of depression. Try calling it hibernation. Imagine the darkness is a cave in which you will be nurtured by doing absolutely nothing. Hibernating animals don't even dream. It's okay if you can't imagine spring. Sleep through the alarm of the world. Name your hopelessness, a quiet hollow, a place you go to heal, a den you dug, sweetheart, instead of a grave.
At Second Unitarian Church of Omaha, our mission is to be authentic, compassionate, and transformative. And I want to acknowledge that a lot of Andrea Gibson's poetry is heavy. I also want to make sure that, remember, Andrea Gibson uses they, them pronouns to honor that reality. It is heavy, and it is hard. What is that poem from Andrea Gibson? I've never met a heavy heart that wasn't a phone booth with a red cape inside. To find the sort of inner hero within our own heaviness. And I hope that we can give space for that. And also, if something is too heavy, friends, it is absolutely okay if you run out those doors and you go take care of yourself. That's totally, totally fine. We deal with some heavy stuff here sometimes, and it's important that we're able to take care of ourselves. No one is hostage in this space. I promise, I promise, I promise it's okay. The first time, I'm not gonna cry. I might, and that's okay. The first time I met Andrea Gibson was at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville during Sex Week. Sex Week was a program we had before the state of Tennessee, pulls funding like they do these days. They like to pull funding from what is life-giving, what is righteous. What do we do here with our sex ed programming? We make it available for all of the span of a person's life, not all at once, that's insane, but appropriately over time. That was the idea of Sex Week, because on a campus with so much assault, so much trouble, people need to know how to take care of themselves and practice consent. It might seem basic to Unitarian Universalists, especially folks who've been through OWL, but in East Tennessee, no. Regrettably, in 2012, no. Today, not enough. But we had a poetry workshop, a spoken word poetry workshop, and I had come out as a trans woman maybe a year before, still very much in the dark and in the muck. I still have a lot of work to do. None of us are done growing up, but I was in a different place than y'all, for sure. A hard time, but a necessary time, kind of like how a caterpillar melts in a chrysalis before it can become a butterfly, enzymes inside of it, breaking it down into some sticky dark that can still remember being a caterpillar somehow, being pieced together over time, bit by bit, like a car being assembled until it's something else entirely. Love did that for me. Love realized in all kinds of ways, from people I knew and people who honestly never really knew me, but touched my life nonetheless. This is the power of writing, right? And speaking. And so I go into this room with like 30 or 40, mostly like queer kids on campus, kids who have had a hard time being at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And here's this skinny and a wafy person with a choppy haircut, holding the space, having us write, and then to my shock, having us read. This was before I was much of a public speaker. Did not think that was a thing that I could do. And here I am reading in front of 30 people and being celebrated for my mid-poetry, which got better, I believe, over time. But without that first impulse of somebody who didn't know me and I didn't know, but to hold my hand through those first processes and say, you have permission to try and to fail and to try again. This is a message I think we want to live out here. I believe I learned that first from Andrea Gibson. Years later, I would take the lessons from their poetry, their assembled work, their radical authenticity, the permission that they gave me, and I went to East Tennessee State University, where I served as the president of the LGBT group with the really clunky acronym HEROES, that's helping educate regarding orientation, equality, and the spectrum. Talk about a pretentious 25-year-old thing to make up. No shade on our 25-year-old friends. I was 25 once. We're all 25 once. But I was president of HEROES, and that was in 2014, I think. Feels like forever ago. And we got word that Andrea Gibson was performing over the mountains in Asheville, North Carolina. Asheville is kind of like the Portland of the South. That keep Asheville weird. And drove across the mountain with a little car packed way too tight of college kids, and went to this little bar and saw Andrea perform and was just blasted away, just totally moved. Then on their way out of the restroom, I caught them and I said, can I give you a hug? And in a moment, that, not an issue. Andrea knew how much that meant to me and to everyone else that they touched in a hug kind of way, but in a heart kind of way. The craft of spoken word poetry, I think, is kind of like learning to give it away. What is it? Give it away. The soul, in a sense, not to forego or abdicate having a soul, but to share it, to share what is raw, what is real, what hurts, what is growing actively, what is giving life, what is receiving life. May we live such lives, friends, that we give one another the kind of radical permission to try and to keep trying and to fail and to get back up again, brought back to life by the light of our actions and our smile and that radical welcome that Tom was talking about. May it be so, friends. Moving in to our sacrament of altar building. Every Sunday, we hear at Second Unitarian Church of Omaha, move up and about this space. It's probably good to shake some of this off, right? And we take up flowers and stones and fire, and we give the flowers around to ourselves, keep it for ourselves if we would like, share it with a friend. That's also okay. We have flowers up front, flowers in the back. Is Anita, Casey, what was said about these memorial service flowers? Anita, Casey, sorry, we had a memorial service yesterday. If you would like a rose, you can have a rose from the memorial service bouquet. I don't think the family's coming back for them, so we were blessed with some wonderful roses from some friends of the congregation. Please take a big rose if you would like a big rose, or a little rose if you want a little rose. But choose a rose. And friends, if there's something weighing on your heart, we have a sacrament for you. You may take up a stone. Feel its weight in your palm. What is that? That's the gravity of the whole planet, pulling everything to the center, the curvature of space-time held in your hand. Give that weight, that sense of a burden you're carrying, connect it in your heart. And when you are ready, give it back to the water. Deep calls to deep. If there's something you'd like to shine a little light on, friends, take a stick, give it to the candle, and then give the flame to another candle. Just as we share our fire, sometimes you may have a struggle candle. There we go. Make sure it's put out all the way in the salt, friends. If you're a younger friend, get a big person to help you with that. Our book of life is here for you to write whatever you would like in, a prayer, a poem, a brief reflection. You can sign your name. You can stay anonymous. What is written in the book of life is incorporated into an extemporaneous prayer of the people following altar building. All of these, save for the book of life, are recreated on the back table. We also have a whiteboard if you feel like drawing. That's okay too. And friends on Zoom, before we introduce the offering, I want you to know this is a time for you as well. I invite you to be about your space where you are at and to make whatever space you're in feel sacred for you. And also, friends, you don't have to participate in these. If you feel where you are is good enough, you're welcome to just sit and be in this space with the music. That's perfectly okay too. But we take our offering up during altar building because we find it to be a sacrament as worthy as any of these, an actioned prayer. Tom, will you come tell us about our Share the Plate recipient?
Each week, our generous congregation shares half of our offering with a local organization to join in the transforming work of love and justice. And our Share the Plate partner for the months of July and August is Restoring Dignity. At the heart of Restoring Dignity is the belief that something can and should be done to meet the needs of Omaha's refugee community through empowerment, through education and advocacy partnerships. Restoring Dignity provides resettled refugee families with crucial services such as home makeovers, relief programs, and language access support. Their family educators go directly into homes and they teach critical skills such as home and fire safety, healthy home education, homeowners maintenance education classes. All the classes are taught in the language that the family speaks by an educator who is from that family's community. Restoring Dignity provides critical housing advocacy for refugees who are struggling with substandard living conditions. Their Welcome Home program is one of the kind. There is nothing like this anywhere else in the United States. We're giving you multiple ways to provide financial support for the ministries of this church. Our offering box, as I've mentioned, starts out by the doors, and then we bring it up here for our altar building. If, like me, you don't usually carry cash or your checkbook, we've got QR codes. There's one on the screen. There's one in your order of service. You can use the donate button on our church website at 2uomaha.org. Or when you find that checkbook or you find that wad of cash that you've been meaning to do something meaningful with, send it to the church at 3012 South 119th Street, 68114. On those checks, please write Share the Plate in that memo line so that our treasurer knows where to give your generous contributions.
Will you join me in a spirit of reverence, friends? Spirit of life, love, and all good growing things beneath this star on this world so racked with rage and loss and tragic misunderstanding, we gather to find a common understanding, to make inroads between difference, to make room where love can bloom, real and alive in the world, within us and around us. Our hearts hold so much heaviness for all the tragedy in this country, of people being unjustly, crudely, crassly, without any kind of due process, rounded up. What is happening in this country? Power lusting after power. May we find the power to rise against such unjust systems in what ways that we can. Maybe fold our actions into a greater love to secure a future for people who are at the margins, that we may draw the circle wider and include more and more and more of love's children into our circle of compassion and care and concern. And our hearts go abroad as well to Ukraine and Gaza and everywhere in the world where anyone is living under the bullet or the bludgeon or the bomb or the bars of a jail cell. May our hearts be there too, for we know that none can truly be free until all are truly free. May this world wake up to realize the senselessness of tragic misunderstanding and loss, how foolish it is that we on this little pale blue dot, this blue boat home that we all share together, find ourselves with cause to harm our neighbor. Maybe not forget that greatest commandment that Rabbi Jesus taught us, to love thy Lord thy God, thy highest calling, with all thy heart, body, mind, and spirit. And the second is like it, to love thy neighbor as thyself. May we love our neighbor, and may we love ourselves. From our Book of Life, from Joel and Kathy Haskins. Joel and Kathy write that they're experiencing the circle of life in real time as we grieve Kathy's brother-in-law receiving hospice care right now. That being said, we are filled with joy to announce that our daughter Heather is pregnant with a baby boy, due on December 11th. Congratulations, Joel and Kathy. We are holding you in care at once. Life pulls and it pushes. We are glad you found cause to join us this morning. Eric Moses writes, thank you for opening and waking me up today. Well, you're most welcome. I'm glad you were here. And Sophie writes, thank you for giving love and light to your church and community. Well, that is what we do, friends, that love may be magnified beyond this space, all over the place. One moment. Gary writes, I am grateful for sunlight through the green leaves of the trees and a prop job Cessna flying in the morning sunshine, as my dad would say, on air as smooth as glass. Well, Gary, you are also a poet. Thank you for sharing, everyone. Casey has a reading. In the chemo room, I wear mittens made of ice so I don't lose my fingernails, but I took a risk today to write this down. That is the title. Casey, your time.
Good morning. My name is Casey Horpadal. I am a tall, dark-haired man with a green shirt, and I will agree with Carissa that it is hard to read after listening to Andrea do their poem, The Nutritionist. I don't know that I can do justice to this, but it is called In the Chemo Room. I wear mittens made of ice so I don't lose my fingernails, but I took a risk today to write this down. Whenever I spend the day crying, my friends tell me I look high. Good grief, they finally understand me. Even when the arena is empty, I thank God for the shots I miss. If you ever catch me only thanking God for the shots I make, remind me I'm not thanking God. Remind me all my prayers were answered the moment I started praying for what I already have. Jenny says when people ask if she's out of the woods, she tells them she'll never be out of the woods. Says there is something lovely about the woods. I know how to build a survival shelter from fallen tree branches, packed mud, and pulled moss. I could survive forever on death alone. Wasn't it death that taught me to stop measuring my lifespan by length, but by width? Do you know how many beautiful things can be seen in a single second? How you can blow up a second like a balloon and fit infinity inside of it. I'm infinite, I know, but I still have a measly wrinkle collection compared to my end goal. I would love to be a before picture, I think. As I look in the mirror and mistake my head for the moon, my dark thoughts are almost always 238,856 miles away from me believing in them. I love this life. I whisper into my doctor's stethoscope so she can hear my heart. My heart, an heirloom I didn't inherit until I thought I could die. Why did I go so long believing I owed the world my disappointment? Why did I want to take the world by storm when I could have taken it by sunshine, by rose water, by the cactus flowers on the side of the road where I broke down? I'm not about to waste more time spinning stories about how much time I'm owed. But there is a man who is usually here who isn't today. I don't know if he's still alive. I just know his wife was made of so much hope. She looked like a firework above his chair. Will the afterlife be harder if I remember the people I love or forget them? Either way, please let me remember.
I'm going to spice it up with a different poet because I feel like it makes sense. They pair together so well. A moment. Also, we may go a little bit over today. I hope that's okay, friends. The Sunrise Ruby by Jalaluddin Rumi, the 16th century Muslim mystic and poet whose poetry we sing every single Sunday morning, and come, come, whoever you are. Rumi writes, in the early morning hour, just before dawn, lover and beloved awake and take a drink of water. She asks, do you love me or yourself more, really? Tell the absolute truth. He says, there is nothing left of me. I'm like a ruby held up to the sunrise. Is it still a stone or a world made of redness? It has no resistance to sunlight. This is how Halaj said, I am God, and told the truth. The ruby and the sunrise are one. Be courageous and discipline yourself. Completely become hearing and ear, and wear this sun ruby as an earring. Work. Keep digging your well. Don't think about getting off from work. Water is there somewhere. Submit to a daily practice. Your loyalty to that is a ring on the door. Keep knocking, and the joy inside will eventually open a window and look out to see who's there. An adaptation by fellow East Tennessean Coleman Barks. Andrea Gibson wrote a reflection about in the chemo room. I need to pull this up for you. Because despite Andrea Gibson's insistence in Birthday that they could never make dying beautiful, this is what they wrote about this poem. After being diagnosed with ovarian cancer, I saw our world as if it were a new planet. Confronting my mortality was the seed that grew into a newfound gratitude for life. Even when I lost my eyelashes to chemotherapy, I wrote, that's 400 wishes I wouldn't have made otherwise. But because I did not want to lose my fingernails too, I'd religiously ice my hands for hours during treatment, unless a poem begged me to type it. Is that line worth losing a nail over, my partner would ask. Almost always I'd smile and say yes. Discipline yourself. Don't think about getting off of work. Water is there somewhere. I feel like as a poet, as somebody who speaks and writes and thinks for a calling, for a living, to be so crass, there is water there somewhere almost always. And I'm wondering what it's like for other people with more relatable day-to-day lives. Where is the water? In a time that seems so bright and hot and droughted. Spiritual practice is spiritual work, in a sense. I think ideally it doesn't always feel like we're grinding away at a thing, but sometimes it does. Sometimes it will. Sometimes there is pain and grief and loss. And in the pursuit of spiritual practice, we are doing that good religious work of, and this is not a thing I think we often talk about in Unitarian Universalist spaces, although we did bring it up yesterday for the memorial service. How does one die well? This isn't a thing we like to think about. We talk a lot about how we live well together, about how we build and grow community, how we connect power and action and make justice with that by suffusing it with love. That is what we do. That is what we are about in our day-to-day lives and our little human interactions at the grocery store or at the protest or at the Capitol building. That is what Unitarian Universalism does in the world. And yet too often we throw our hands up and say, yeah, we're universalists, we probably all go to the same place. And that's really the only answer I have for you on that question, friends, about where we go, what happens. We all likely have different ideas. Some of us might even have more than one idea at a time about what's possible there because we just don't know. And that's okay. How boring would life be if we could know a question to something like that? I don't think we're designed. It's not really possible to pierce the veil. And that's okay, because we're into this life. But in between the two, there is a time. There is a time. I was a hospital chaplain. I think I've told you all some stories from being a hospital chaplain. And being a hospital chaplain, you are directly face-to-face with people's worst day all of the time. People who are just spraining their ankle, and it's the worst day for them because how are they going to grapple with this new reality of pain or confusion or what's happening to me? Sometimes it's not that big of a deal. It's just holding people's hands while they grapple with the reality of their own mortality, even if it's miles away from them. And then there are people who are at the precipice, or people who are beyond the precipice and their families are tugging at each other about mother being on or off life support, disentangling these things. I have used Andrea Gibson's poetry as a hospital chaplain, gifted it to people to consider, to reflect upon the role of grief, the nature of loss, the beauty of life. And for myself, in those sort of weird moments in between visits, sitting in a hallway, thinking, did I do the right thing in this given room? Did I say the right thing? Should I have said more? It's almost always better to lean towards silence, but sometimes there's room for a poem. Sometimes there's room for a poem, because what is a poem? A poem is kind of like a prayer. A poem is a stupid thing, silly thing. That isn't to say it's useless. Maybe that's unkind. But I think a lot of our culture does tend to treat liberal arts and poetry like it's a frivolous thing. You and I know better. We know better. Poems can be inconvenient, strange. Maybe they don't make sense to us at first reading. Maybe they have to be given breath on air for them to really impact us. A lot of Andrea Gibson's poetry is like that. It's just better if it's heard. But nonetheless, why do we take time to write these things? Heinrich Zimmer once said that the best things can't be spoken about. And yet we must speak about them anyways. The mysteries of life, the poetry written on nature, the big questions. Why are we here? How does one live well? How does one die well? And I think I am working on an answer to that, friends, but in my heart, where I land, is we die well, just like Andrea said in this last poem, by giving ourselves to the moment. I wanted to take this world by storm, but I could have taken it by rosewater, sunshine. And so, for me, how does one carry on the work of the real Lord of the Butterflies, Andrea Gibson? How does one lean into that? I think it's like what Rumi says, to allow ourselves to become hearing and ear, to find our calling, what moves us, like poetry moved Andrea, and to give ourselves to that thing. That the ruby and the sunrise are one. Is it still a stone or a world made of redness? What are you, friends? May we all be worlds made of redness, given over, that even if it might cost a fingernail, that we can be moved by the aspirations of our own heart to write it down. A moment. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth,
The warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Praise the love from which all goodness shines. Praise freedom lifted to the sky. Praise the fires of the mind. Praise all the joy we've yet to find.
I invite y'all to sit. I'm going to read one more poem to send us off in lieu of a normal benediction. Perhaps my favorite poem by Andrea Gibson, the one that introduced me to their work. This is, I sing the body electric, especially when my power's out. This is my body. I have weather vanes. They're especially sensitive to dust storms and hurricanes. When I'm nervous, my teeth chatter like a wheelbarrow collecting rain. I am rusty. When I talk, it's the storm in me. The doctor said someday I might not be able to walk. It's in my blood like the iron. My mother is as tough as nails. She held herself together the day she could no longer carry my niece. She said, our kneecaps are our prayer beds. Everyone can walk farther on their kneecaps than they can on their feet. This is my heartbeat, like yours. It is a hatchet. It can build a house or tear one down. My mouth is a fire escape. The words coming out don't care if they are naked. There is something burning in here. When it burns, I hold my own shell to my ear. Listen for the parade when I was 7. The man who played the bagpipes wore a skirt. He was from Scotland, so I wanted to move there. Wanted my spine to be the spine of an unpublished book, my faith the first and last page. The day my ribcage became monkey bars for a girl hanging on my every word, they said, you are not allowed to love her. Tried to take me by the throat and teach me I was not a boy. I had to unlearn their prison speak, refused to make wishes on the stars on the sheriff's chest. I started wishing on the stars in the sky instead. I said to the sun, tell me about the Big Bang. The sun said it hurts to become. I carry that hurt on the tip of my tongue and whisper, bless your heart every chance I get, so my family tree can be sure I have not left. You do not have to leave to arrive. I am learning this slowly. So sometimes I look in the mirror and my eyes look like the holes in the shoes of the shoeshine man. Some days my hands are busy on the wrong things. Some days I call my arms wings while my head is in the clouds. It will take a few more years to learn that flying is not pushing away the ground, but safety isn't always safe. You can find one on every gun. I am aiming to do better. This is my body. My exhaustion pipe will never pass inspection, and still my lungs know how to breathe like a burning map every time I get lost behind a curtain of her hair. Find me by the window, following my path to that trail of blood in the snow. For the record, if you have ever done anything for attention, this poem is attention. Title it with your name. It will scour the city bridge every time you stand staring at the river. It never wants to find your body doing anything but loving what it loves. Love what you love. Say, this is my body. It is no one's but mine. This is my nervous system, my wanting blood, my tongue tied up like a ball of Christmas lights. If you put a star on the top of my tree, make sure it is a star that fell. Make sure it hit rock bottom like a tambourine, because all these words are stories. To the staircase, to the top of these lungs where I sing what hurts and the echo comes back. Bless your heart. Bless your holy kneecaps. They are so smart. You are so full of rain. There is so much that is growing. Hallelujah to your weather vanes. Hallelujah to the ache, to the pull, to the fall, to the pain. Hallelujah to the grace and the body and every cell of us all. Prophetic Church, this world awaits your poetry, your spirit, your righteous will to live. May you be fools for love and pilgrims for justice. And until we meet again, may we rock, roll, and move towards that beloved community on the horizon where all and all that we are may find a home. Go in peace.